Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
All right, on the phone right now, I got the homie Lena Waithe. Lena, what's happening?
You know, it's a little crazy, but this is what we do.
We see everything that's going on in the news with The Shy and Showtime and Jason Mitchell. Like what is going on? Because you're being accused of some things. I saw the showrunner of The Shy, Ayanna Floyd. She claims that you were well aware of Jason Mitchell's misconduct by the end of season 1. So what do you got to say about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, like what I wanted to do. One, I wanted to have a conversation, about this because I think that unfortunately when things like this happen in the news, and this is the age in which we live, is that things sort of get, talked about on Twitter. People read headlines. We all love the Shade Room. I know that's where I get my news. And so we start having conversations in comment sections. And I think that when it comes to matters like this, like we got to be able to talk. We got to actually have a conversation. And I think and I wanted to have this conversation within our community. And so the truth is that this is, I think, a bigger issue than just our show and just Jason and the people involved. I think that the truth is, I think women of color in general in this town, are kind of hit twice. We have to deal with racial inequality and we have to deal with sexual harassment. And I think that is something that, unfortunately, my show was not immune to. Now, what I do want to say is that season 1 of The Shy, that was shot maybe 3 years ago, and that was before people really knew who I was. So I was one of those powerless women of color in this industry. Even though we can say, well, you wrote a pilot, you created a show, you sold it. That's true, but I didn't have a whole ton of power on that show or a lot of say. and mind you, I have a really strong relationship now with the studio and the network, but it's just kind of how things go. And is that when it's your first thing, you are sort of almost an employee on your own thing. And I wasn't really aware. I knew I was aware of stuff I was dealing with on the show, but I wasn't made aware of anything between that was going on with Tiffany until after the season had wrapped. And when Tiffany and I did have a conversation, and out of respect for her privacy, I would keep that conversation private. But we did discuss some stuff that just wasn't appropriate. And I remember looking at her because we were FaceTiming, and I was like, yo, this is not cool. I feel awful that you had an experience on my set that was not pleasant. And by that point, though, after the season had wrapped, I had a little bit more power and I had a little bit more clout. And I was like, here's what I'm going to do to change that. I'm going to hire a woman of color as the showrunner. And people that don't know what a showrunner is the person that pretty much handles the day-to-day business of the show. I'm the creator. There are showrunners. There were showrunners on the show for the first 2 different shows, the first 2 seasons. And the first season was a white male. Mm-hmm. Second season was a black woman. That was in direct reaction to what I heard about what was going on the show. So I can already say that the idea of me hearing about something and me not doing anything just isn't true, because Ayanna's hiring was a direct reflection of me trying to change the attitudes and the environment on that set. And we have something called a producing director, and that person is someone who basically oversees every single episode, is on set damn near every day and making sure everything is cool. And that was a queer woman of color who I hired, and before in that position was a white male.
So after season 1, you were aware of, I guess, some of the allegations that were being made against Jason.
Right. And that's why I was like, so what happened was that was handled. There were conversations that were had, HR was made aware, and all the parties involved were like, this thing has been resolved enough that both parties were willing to return to the show. So I was like, okay, if you want to come back, I want to make sure that the environment is different. I made sure that when she came back to set, that there was damn near a whole different crew. And also too, there were huge precautions that we took. The writers had extensive sexual harassment training. There was extensive sexual harassment training on set. And I do recall Tiffany, we were texting, she was like, let's get some sexual harassment training. And I said, absolutely. We need that. And I said, also, I'm going to put women in positions of power on the show. I said, because I think if that's the case, it'll be less likely that we have issues like this again. Not to say that women are exempt, from doing things, but I was like, I think it'll make it a safer environment. That was my assumption. So then we get into season 2, and things are running pretty smoothly. You know, like I'm not hearing anything. I'm hearing that, you know, the set is completely different because it just looks different. And so everything is just sort of like moving. And then I get a call from Ayanna saying things are persisting. Not a lot has changed in that area. But she said to me, she was like, but you can't reach out to anybody. You got to sit tight. HR has to handle this. And my biggest regret is that I wish I would have just said, forget that, you know, and not trusted, you know, anybody to do my job. And I wish I would have just reached out to Tiffany on my own and just been like, yo, what's going on? Like, what can I do? Lena, what can Lena do to fix this? And instead, I trusted someone else to do my job. And the truth is, can't nobody do my job like me, because I'm a person that I'm very blunt. I'm a chick from Chicago. I don't play, you know, but what I wanted to do was trust my showrunner at the time. And ultimately, like, the situation was not handled appropriately. And I'm not trying to shade nobody. I ain't trying to throw nobody on the bus. What I want to do is own that I wish I could have, you know, I could have handled the situation differently. And I wish I would have done more, because I think that's my issue with these things when they come out. People don't own their shit. You know, they act like, oh, I'm not at fault. Oh, well, I'm a pass the buck. What I want to do is own my part in it. And ultimately, I just feel like I want to make sets better for all women, not just my set. But even where I'm at now with Boomerang, with Queen and Slim, there's no way. Whenever there's a sex scene or anything, I'm on set. Well, I'm so paranoid about it. I'm like, everybody out, everybody gone. Like, I'm holding booms, you know what I'm saying? Because I refuse to allow any woman, any person on my set feel uncomfortable or unsafe, because I know what that's like to be, you know, feel powerless, particularly as a woman of color. And for anybody to even assume or say that I would stand by while a woman is being mistreated or harassed and not do anything is just not true. It's just not who I am. And I do think I've been in the game a little bit where people have gotten to know me. They see how I get down. I'm all about the tribe. There's no way I would ever stand by and let something bad happen to somebody knowingly. Yeah, and I think I was trying to do was, like, you know, put people in positions of power to change that. But ultimately, that wasn't the answer. I'm always the answer. Lena is the answer. And that's the biggest lesson I've learned in all this. And I'm going to continue to be the answer as I move forward. And also, that's the big thing that I always bring up. You know, when I'm in these times up meetings, is like, we have to make sure we're working to protect women of color as well, because we often get forgotten about.
Was this your first time? Well, clearly this was your first time having to mediate an issue like this on set. So could your lack of familiarity, could your lack of, you know, having experience with the situation play a part in how you handled it?
Yes, because it was my first TV show, period. You know, I was with, you know, trying to deal with those politics. You know, me and the writers were having a bit of a tough time, you know, because we were trying to make sure the show was on point. And, you know, and so what I really wanted to do, that's why to me it's so interesting, because what I felt was, I was like, the way we solve these issues is by changing who's in power, you know, but I think it's also, we have to be mindful and make sure that, like, you have to really make sure that no matter who you put in power on your show, because again, I have multiple shows. I think people don't realize, like, I can't, like, personally, like, be involved in every single little decision on every show. That's just not how I employ way too many people, and that goes to the territory of being a boss. But what I have to do, and what I think I've gotten better about, is doing a lot of recon and doing a lot of vetting about every single person I hire, particularly people that I hire to run my TV show or, you know, a movie set, because they are representative of me. And I think that I think I would have definitely, if I could go back, I would have done things differently. But I don't regret making a Black woman a showrunner. I don't. You know what I'm saying? I don't regret putting her in that position of power. I do regret trusting her to handle it all by herself. I wish I would have, like, you know, said, you know what, I get that it's a legal matter. I get what you're saying. I just sit tight. I hear what you're saying when you're saying you're handling it. But I should have just sort of, like, went around that, because I got to make sure everybody's good.
Yeah, because ultimately it falls on you. Ultimately it falls on you. Yeah.
Absolutely. That show says created by Lena Waithe. People don't know any of these other folks. You know what I'm saying? They know me. And ultimately, it's what I want to do is make things right, with Tiffany on a personal level, because she don't deserve to be dragged. She's someone who we should be actually protecting. She's someone I stand next to, and I think to me she's representative of a lot of women of color who are ignored and are silenced and are sort of pushed away. And I think that is not cool, and I never want to be one of those people. And that's really, to me, where I think what I wanted to pipe up and say something is that, one, it's just not true that I just knew he was acting crazy and I wasn't doing anything. Even I at one point talked to him and I was like, just from human to human, I was like, you need to be respectful of any woman on set. You need to be respectful of everybody. Because, again, even though he's an actor on a show of mine, his behavior is also a representation of me. And I can't have that. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I can't have you out here acting crazy if you on my show, because it bears my name.
Well, have you? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, so have you spoken to Tiffany throughout this situation?
Well, throughout this situation, Tiffany is someone who wants to put this behind her. I'm very close with her fiance. He and I have spoken, but it was just like some casual stuff. It wasn't about this actual situation. I personally think that they should be left alone to go live their lives and to pursue their careers. They're both extremely talented actors who I believe have very bright futures, and that's what I really want people to focus on, is their talent and what they bring to this game, and that's a lot. And I just feel like for people to be mad at her, for folks to be talking to me about, oh, can I audition for Brandon? The whole thing is just like, it's not okay. These are people's lives. This is a very serious matter, and it's something I don't take lightly. And the big reason why I didn't want to go on Twitter or start debating with people in comments is because this situation is too nuanced and too delicate to treat it in that way. I really wanted to have a conversation, because that's exactly what this is. This is a conversation that we need to be having, and that we all need to be doing more to make sure everybody is safe in this particular industry. And, and that's the great thing about Time's Up, is they try to focus on all industries, not just Hollywood. But for me, I want to make sure that this kind of thing not only never happens again on my set, but doesn't happen again on anybody else's set. This is what I'm really fighting for. And that's why a big thing for me is what I try to do is empower writers and make sure, because oftentimes writers can be they can be dismissed, because sometimes even if an actor comes to a writer or a creator of the show, it's like, yo, this is going on. Sometimes I don't have the power to fire anybody. I don't. I wish I did. I do not. I don't own the Shy. It's like I created it, I sold it, so it's like I could be fired off the Shy.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's real. People don't understand that, and so what I tried to do was, I was like, okay, how do I, fix this situation? And again, just the sentence just doesn't make sense of Lena stood by and did nothing, because the very thing I did was hired a woman of color to come in and be in charge.
Well, I guess a lot of people would say, if you knew what was going on in season 1, why even bring Jason back at all?
Well, I think the thing was because the issue was resolved.
Okay.
Whatever that, that's the other thing. I don't even know, the realty is, I don't even know the full story, because that stuff goes to a legal department that they don't release that information. But all I know was I was told that HR had done an investigation, it was resolved, and both parties were willing to return season 2.
Yeah, and a source did come to your defense and told Vulture.com that they actually said you became aware of Jason's conduct during filming of the second season. And
well, yes, that's true. Yeah, but Tiffany and I spoke after season 1 wrapped, and that's when I said to her, I said, give me an opportunity to change the environment of the show, and that's a big thing. She really was like, okay, I'm going to trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, and I did. I was like, she came to that set and it looked completely different than season 1.
Gotcha. So that source was wrong. That source didn't realize that you had already knew about this towards the end of the first season.
Right, and that's why I informed Ayanna of what was going on before she walked in. I was like, this is something that happened, and because of that, I want to be very serious about how this set is run because of a complaint I heard that, yes, it was resolved, and obviously both actors are returning, but because they are returning, I want to make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen again. And when it persisted, and I got a call from Ayanna that said, oh, things are like uncomfortable on set, but I'm handling it and you sit tight and it's a legal matter now. I think what I tried to do, I trusted my showrunner. And I think my biggest lesson is ultimately I can't trust somebody else to do my job.
Why let Tiffany go? Like when you realized like she wanted to walk away, why not say, no, you stay, we're going to let Jason go?
Well, again, one, I was told that she wanted to go, one, because I think that situation, I think she just was at a place of there's no repairing it, and I think she wanted to go explore other opportunities, and I didn't want to hold her back from that. I'm never going to say, hey, you stay here, I don't care what you want. I really wanted to respect her wishes, And the other thing is that, again, I'm not in control over who really stays or who goes on the show. Like, I can make a pitch. I can say, yo, let's get rid of this person, but ultimately it's not my final decision. Because the truth is, there's a world in which I can say it's me or Jason, and they may pick Jason.
Wow.
Like, low key. Real shit. Like, so at the end of the day, it's like I would never hold somebody on something where they don't want to be, and I do feel like the network and studio was very supportive of Tiffany. We did there was a lot done to make sure she felt comfortable, and ultimately she's like, yo, I want to go off and do other things, and that's why she's already off doing other things, and she's like living her life, and that's why I don't really think she wanted to be pulled into this, because we kind of did our thing of like, okay, this isn't working out, and you want to do your own thing. And I never want to hold somebody back or tell them they can't do what they need to do for their own comfort.
What I'm getting from this is that you don't have the control that a lot of people may think that you have, but you're getting the blame because people think you have that control.
Right. And the truth is like I'm more involved this season just because I was like, creatively, there are things I want to do that I've always wanted to do with the show, which I've never really had a space to do. And also, too, the way I run sets, like, I'm very particular when I'm on a set. You know what I'm saying? I'm very, all these actors, there's a lot of projects I'm involved in. There's no other actors that's come up and said, oh, I've had an uncomfortable experience on Lena's set, oh, da-da-da. So it's like what I've learned from this experience is to be extremely hands-on in people's faces on the set when these scenes are taking place, because that's the only way I can speak to it. The frustrating thing about this is that I was very much out of the loop. And all I have to go off of is, what my showrunner is telling me. And again, I'm not here to shade her. I wish her the best as well. Ultimately, at the end of the day, is my regret is that an actress on my set felt unsafe.
Got you.
And that is not something I would ever want. And the truth is, I worked very hard and diligently to make sure to try to fix things in season 2. But ultimately, it couldn't be fixed. And then when these other things were coming out about Jason on other projects, not just our show, it was a decision made, by the studio that he would not return. And when they told me that, I didn't say, let's keep him. I didn't say, no, I'm going to fight this. I said, okay, I agree with that assessment.
Yeah, I read somewhere they was reporting that Showtime only became aware of the issue with Jason after he was fired. So, and if that's true, how has that affected your relationship with Showtime, if any?
No, my relationship with Showtime is very solid, and also I know Showtime is very supportive of Tiffany, and Showtime is not about having unsafe sets either. I think what people don't realize is that a couple of years back there was no Time's Up. There was no infrastructure. There was nowhere to turn, even for me, because I didn't even really know, like, oh, who do I go to? Who's my resource? What I did was I was like, oh, I'm putting a black woman in charge of this show next season. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a queer woman of color in charge of the set. That's what I'm going to do. And I did hear that things that like were different, things were a little better. I wasn't hearing any complaints. And so I figured things had gotten better. And then when I got that call of, oh, she's still uncomfortable, things are going on, I'm handling it. You sit tight. It's a legal matter now. Don't reach out. I just wish that I would have ignored that and just picked up the phone and said, nah, I'm going to call Tiff and just get the download from her directly. And that's something I own because, again, I think the big issue with these situations is everybody looks to place blame. Everybody wants to throw people under the bus. Nobody wants to take ownership of their part in it. And ultimately, for me, I'm never going to be the one to do that. I'm always going to look at what I could have done better or what I could have changed or what I could have improved upon.
Have you spoken to Ayanna at all?
I have not.
Because it seemed like she threw you under the bus just a little bit.
Well, look, if that's how she want to roll, I wish her the best. I really do. You know what I mean? Like, I have no ill will toward nobody black. None. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so y'all didn't have a conversation at all before she released the statement?
Absolutely not.
Wow.
Absolutely not. And again, that's the nuance that people don't have. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's like, ultimately for me, I'm out here working every day. You know, I'm working on season 3. I'm working on, getting ready to walk into season 2 of Boomerang. I'm working on Queen and Slim. I'm trying to put people on. I'm employing people of color. I'm creating mentorship programs. I'm working with brands to make sure that people have opportunities. So, if people want to try to, hurt me or got a vendetta against me, it's like ultimately you actually hurting the people behind me that I'm trying to help, that I'm trying to help put on. This is a bigger issue.
Gotcha.
And so for me, it's like, I don't want an unsafe set. What does that benefit me? Why would I want an actress on my show not to be happy or not to feel safe?
Absolutely.
That's just not who I am. And again, it's like, when I got word that something was up, I was like, I'm changing this whole set, this way this whole show is run. And here's the thing, the network and studio supported me in that. They were like, okay, we're going to give you a black woman to show run. We're going to give you a crew woman of color, be producer and director. We're going to make the crews more diverse. They stepped up with me.
And even bigger, if the two people involved, Tiffany and Jason, mutually agreed to still work together, that says a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, because they were like, okay, let's come back and give this another go. And we did. Now, again, when I heard about some other stuff happening, I was like, okay, what do I do? They were like, you got to sit tight because it's a legal matter now. And like I said, I just wish I would have not sat tight and would have done or just said, forget that. I'm making some calls myself.
Now, what does
I trusted somebody to do the job that I should have done myself.
Now, what does Lena say to Jason in this situation? Because I'm sure you picked up the phone and had some conversations with him. Or have you spoken to him?
I mean, I think to me, what I believe he has to do is really go work on himself and really look internally, because this is a bigger issue. This is bigger than just my show. This is some other things obviously going on, which I know nothing about, this Netflix thing. I know nothing about why his agency dropped him. That stuff is very, very much outside of me. But all I know is that he, just on a human level, has to get right. He has to get right with himself. That's on him. That's his responsibility. I can't fix Jason Mitchell. All I can fix, is my behavior and how I move forward.
Did you ever check him during any of this? Like when you was getting complaints about him, did you ever reach out to him yourself? Yeah. Yes. There was definitely a conversation where I called him and got really real, and I was just like, and I think I even said something to the effect of like, treat women don't treat any woman any differently the way you would treat me. Because I personally have never had an inappropriate or weird or whatever interaction with him. I just never have. But that's probably because he look at you like the homie though. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter. I still believe all the women that have come forward and said he did misbehave, because I'm a person that believes women. True. That's my stance on it. So ultimately, I don't care if he was somebody I was cool with or not. Like I don't condone his behavior.
And I never did. That's why, because if I did, I would have kept it business as usual. I'd have been like, oh, well, let's just see what happens. No, I literally changed the leadership on the show because I know that I'm not going to be on set every day. I know I'm not going to be there all the time. So I want to put people in power that look like me.
Got you. I got a couple.
But the truth is, you can look like me, but you may not act like me.
Very true.
And that's the real. And that's a big lesson I've learned.
I got two more questions for you. In June of 2018, you told the Hollywood Reporter, I've been very involved in Time's Up in that movement. And for season 2, we're making sure that women feel safe. If you want to play that game and be disrespectful or misbehave on set with an actress or anyone, I'll happily call Showtime and say this person has to go, and you will get shot up, and it'll be a wonderful finale. Was this in response to what you had been hearing about Jason, or was it just an ironically timed statement?
No, it was in response because at that point I knew what was, happening. So it was a little bit me, I think, speaking, to, and that's not just him, but any actor that would ultimately come on the show. You know what I'm saying? That's why I didn't call out his name, but I was making it clear that, like, this is something I do not stand for. I just don't. You know what I mean? And so I think what was frustrating is that I wasn't, things weren't being communicated to me like daily about what was happening. And so I ended up getting a call once I think things had kind of gotten to a place where it wasn't, when I realized it sort of wasn't really being handled as best as it could have been. And that's really my biggest regret, is that I would have stepped in just in the middle of it and been like, yo, here's what I think. Here's what I want to happen. But I never got that opportunity. So, but here's the biggest point, is that when the studio came to me and said, yo, we really feel like we don't want to pick up the option, I said, I stand with y'all on that.
So we can expect can we expect Brandon to get shot in season 3?
Y'all
gonna kill him off?
People got to tune in to see what we do in season 3. But ultimately, it's that, like, what they should know is we're not gonna unviv him. That is like been like a bit of I think that conversation on Twitter. We ain't about to do that.
Got you.
But ultimately, it's like we're gonna handle it, creatively, and we're gonna do it in a way that I think is respectful to the audience. But it's like to me, if I was a person that wasn't a real one, I would have fought to keep him. I'd have been like, oh no, like, let's just work this out. That never came out of my mouth to anybody involved. When they were like, yo, we're not picking up this option, I was like, I'm in agreement with that, and we're gonna figure out the season, because it's always been an ensemble show, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, let him go get the help he needs to get, and let's make sure, we're honoring these women that are on our show. And again, it's like, to me, it's like, I'm just not a person that believes in not owning your shit. I just don't believe in that. It's like, you have to own your part in when things happen. And I think for me, it's like, I've learned my lessons from this. And the great thing is like, this will never happen on my set again. It just won't.
Would you ever work with? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There's never been no other. There's also, it's like, if I have problematic sets, people would hear about that. You know what I'm saying? That
Very true.
That's just not the case. Between Tatana Jackson, who had a sex scene on Boomerang, which was handled appropriately, Jodie Turner-Smith and Queen and Slim. There's a sex scene handled appropriately. There's another movie coming up. There's actually a sexual assault that's going to be handled very delicately. I'm just not a person that's out here walking around that's not caring about how women, particularly women of color, are treated on my set. That's just not who I am.
Would you ever work with Jason again?
Honestly, I will not, and I can only speak for myself. And I think that's just because of the behavior that happened even after I tried to improve things, even after I spoke to him. What that says to me is that, there's only so much I can do, with the person. Like, look, if other people want to work with him, that's their prerogative. For me, I just don't think it's right, because I can't stand by these women and continue to work with him and put money in his pocket. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I don't believe that that's really fair or really right or makes a lot of sense. Because to me, I have to stand with women. I just do. I got to stand with women. I got to stand with them, and that's always been my position. And just because I'm in the public eye, just because, you know, I'm a writer and I'm out here and I'm doing these different things, it doesn't make me perfect. It doesn't make me someone that's immune to not, you know, sometimes getting things wrong. But ultimately, all I can do is, when I move forward, is trying to get things right. And I will say the studio, the network, everybody involved, that was always our position. It's how do we make things right? And I got to give the studio and network credit. They really, even with me, they were like, how do we make things right with you on the show? How do we make things right for Tiffany on the show? How do we make things right for everybody on the show? And the truth is, it literally, you're not going to always get things right away. You know, sometimes it is trial and error. And what we've done is we've finally gotten it right, you know, by season 3, is that we've said he's not returning to the show. Tiffany has moved on to bigger and brighter things. And I think, like I said, I think she's a very talented actress. I think she's a wonderful human being. And, you know, and I stand with her and I support her. And anybody attacking her is an attack on me.
You wouldn't encourage her to come back? Like, look, we got everything clean. You know, the person that was bothering you is gone. You wouldn't encourage her to come back for season 3?
Yes, I would love to. She always has a place on the Shy. Always.
Gotcha.
You know, she has an open door. Jason does not.
True.
He has an open door to come to set. But at the same time, it's like, I also know that things can be triggering. I also know that once you've had a bad experience, you know, on the thing, you sometimes don't want to go back. And why should she? Like, she really has a whole, you know, the whole world is ahead of her. And I want her to be as successful and happy and prosperous as she can be, because she deserves that. She's worthy of that. And so ultimately, my big thing is to make sure there's never another Tiffany Boone on one of my sets. And there shouldn't be a Tiffany Boone on anybody, you know what I'm saying, in terms of like a woman feeling unsafe, a woman feeling unheard, you know, or a woman feeling as if, you know, a male actor is more important to her. And if I ever played a part in that or made her feel that way, I deeply apologize, because that's just not that's not what I'm about. That's not my brand. That's not who I am. It's just not, because I'm a woman. I'm a woman of color. And I know what it's like to have felt powerless. I know what it's like to really feel like you're sitting at the table by yourself. You know what I mean? Because until I found some success, people then started sitting next to me and be like, oh, okay, cool. But the thing is what do you do when you have that power? And what no one can say is that when I had that power, I didn't do anything with it. Because the biggest thing I did was I put a black woman in a position of power. To take care of that set. And I think she did the best she could. You know what I'm saying? But ultimately, it wasn't enough. And that's why we are where we are. But I'm not here to throw nobody under the bus. I'm not here to throw shade. And I'm also not here to spill tea I don't even have. Because people are like, well, what happened? What did he do? I can't speak to that, because I honestly don't know. But what I do know is someone felt unsafe, someone felt uncomfortable, and someone felt unheard. And that part, I will own that. I wish I could have done more to make her feel safe. But I tell you what, this is a lesson for me, and it ain't gonna never happen again.
Well, I think people will be happy to hear that you were not ignoring like the certain signs of misconduct just because of, you know, who Jason was, you know?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You know what I mean? And I think ultimately, you know, this is a bigger conversation. You know, I think sometimes people obsess over one specific incident or one act or whatever. I'm like, ultimately, the bigger issue is that Hollywood needs to be safer for women of color. You know, and I'll even go hard, because you know how we are, like black women. Hollywood still needs to be a safer space for black women. And I think we all need to do better about that.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I'm always going to believe black women. I'm always going to stand by black women, even when those black women don't stand by me.
Wow.
Even if those black women want to throw me under the bus.
With that said,
I'm not going to go low.
With that said, my final question, where do you think this leaves you with other advocates of the Time's Up and Me Too movement? Oh.
I think, to me, I'm someone that is a prime example of what Time's Up is about. You know what I'm saying? We're about people looking at a situation that isn't right and doing everything in our power to fix it. Because what I learned about being in Time's Up and hearing these stories is that this shit been going on for decades.
Word.
People been misbehaving. I mean, I've heard some horror stories, and I'm like, damn, like that happened, this happened. And the truth is that a lot of these women say, oh, in hindsight, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have spoke up sooner. I wish this person would have came to my defense. And the truth is we can't go back. We can't go back in time and fix what was done. All we can do is move forward and be better. And what I will say about Time's Up is that is their ultimate goal. Is they're like, we can't fix the past. We don't have that power. But what we can do is address the problems and address these issues and have these conversations and talk to these women, listen to these women, and go and just even ask, like, what can we do moving forward to make sure this kind of thing never happens again? Because that's what we're doing over at the Chi. You know what I'm saying? Because we know people love the show. We know people want to tune in. We understand how much people love the show. The show is not canceled. Brand is not being recast. We hope to see all of you next season. We really are, cooking up a show that is about what it means to be Black and just trying to survive.
Absolutely.
That's what the show really is. So what we don't want to do is take away from that, because we need that kind of show on television. There's not a lot of shows like that on television. But what I learned in doing the show is that we got a lot of work to do in this industry to make sure everybody is heard and everybody feels safe, on a set. And that's just internal work that we have to do as an industry, but also people like myself, there's a big difference between my position in the industry from season 1 to now. And nobody can say that I have abused my power or that I haven't used my power for good.
Well,
Go ahead.
No, I said it's only one of you, Lena. So you can't micromanage every situation. And with these 100 jobs you got, it's going to be a lot of different fires that happen. Some you may know about, some you may not know about, some you can put out, some you can't.
True. And what I want to promise the people is that they got to know that I'm always going to do everything in my power to make sure everybody feels safe, to make sure everybody feels happy, and to make sure everybody feels like they have a voice. And anybody that comes to any of my sets knows that that's the case. And the big reason why I'm going to be even more involved in this season is because I saw what happened, in season 2 of it sort of being mishandled and it not really being handled in the best way possible, even in everybody's best effort. I feel like I got to be in the middle of it. You know what I mean? That's my biggest lesson from all this, is that I'm going to always step in. And again, just not trust anybody else to do my job. Just because you look like me don't mean you act like me. And
that's real.
I can't expect everybody to carry themselves in the way that I carry myself. So, look, we're coming back for season 3. Unfortunately, we will not have Brandon and Jerica, but we will have Reg, we will have Emmett, we will have Papa, we will have Kevin, we will have Duda, we will have all these characters that make up the city. Chicago is bigger than one person. Bigger than 2 people. So we want to continue to tell the stories of the city of Chicago. And we're already, we're getting to work, and we're putting together a great show for the people. But ultimately, like I said, this whole situation has been unfortunate. We're all very disappointed about how all this shook out. But I can tell you for a fact, I did not stand by and do nothing while someone, suffered. I didn't do that. I did everything I could to improve the environment. And ultimately, I just own that I really wish I would have done just even more and kind of went around the red tape. Because ultimately, as a Black woman, like as with other Black women, we got to reach out to each other and get rid of the middleman and just stand next to each other and hold each other up. And so that's what I'm doing now. That's what I own. And just know that I'm going to continue to really fight on the front lines and continue to pipe up and to use my voice and to make sure this kind of thing never happens again. Because our ancestors went through too much for us to still have to be putting up with any kind of shit.
Yeah, nah, you're right. I mean, it's just weird to see people even come at you at all, just for the fact that you have been an advocate, since day one. So it's just kind of weird. It's just kind of weird to see people coming at you like, huh, Lena?
Look, it comes with the territory, and I make myself accessible. I made myself available. This is me talking to you, but this is us having a conversation in front of the people, to hear from me and to know that I'm who you think I am. You know what I mean? I'm not out here fronting or pretending to be something I'm not. But at the same time, I'm not a perfect person. You know, I'm not going to always get things right. But I'll tell you what, I'll own it when I don't.
That's right.
I'll stand up when, you know, when I believe an injustice has happened, and I'm always going to stand next to my sisters. Like I said, even if they don't want to stand next to me.
That's
because
real.
Because that's how I get down. I'm about the tribe. I'm about the tribe.
That's real. Well, thank you, Lena. We appreciate you. Can't wait to see Shy season 3, but can't wait to finish season 2.
Oh, yo, exactly. Finish season 2 and come back and holler at us season 3.
All right, Lena. Keep fighting the good
Thank
fight.
you, bro.
All right, peace.
I appreciate you. Later. Bye.